where I'm coming from. And if you don't agree with it, that's a different thing. However, you've got to see the way I'm explaining it, where is the intrinsic discrepancy within what I'm saying? That's what you need to highlight. So I would then highlight to you this verse, CEV of Matthew 9:3. This is the creme de la menthe, as they say here, the epitome of the evidence that Christ cannot be God. So here is the proof as such. Okay. So let's just do it slowly, and if you've got any objections, let me just finish like we had a nice conversation before. So here we are. Jesus got into a boat and crossed back over to the town where he lived. Some people soon brought to him a man lying on a mat because he could not walk. When Jesus saw how much faith they had, he said to the man, "My friend, don't worry, your sins are forgiven." Some teachers of the law of Moses said to themselves, "Jesus must think he is God." So please, it's very important that you pay attention, otherwise you're going to miss out what I was going to say. So, my friend, don't worry, your sins are forgiven. Some teachers of the law of Moses said to themselves, "Jesus must think he is God."
That's contemporary English. That's not.
I never wrote it. I never wrote it.
Original translation.
It is the.
So you're just allowing yourselves to.
So
be
did I? Okay.
You need to go back to the King James.
Okay.
Or you need to go back to the original Greek.
Okay. So can I?
It's refuted
Okay. Can I?
just because
Can I finish what I'm saying? At least give me the good grace to finish what I'm saying.
Let him make his point.
Then you can respond back. It's not an issue.
We'll respond back.
Thank you. That's perfect. That's how you have a good civil conversation. Otherwise, it goes. Are we having a civil conversation? I think anyway. Okay, I think we are. I think he agrees as well. Even he's looking at you. Even looked at you like that. Okay, absolutely I will. And I think I showed that previously. So some teachers of the law of Moses said to themselves, "Jesus must think he is God." Why? Because they've observed that he's forgiven the sins. Are we on the same page so far?
So this is a different translation, but we have the original Greek.
Doesn't make a difference. It's the same meaning.
It does.
No,
it does make a difference.
No, because in the Greek it says, and Jesus. Yeah, that's fine. In the Greek it says Jesus is committing blasphemy. Blasphemy meaning what? Claiming to be God, because only God can forgive sins.
So blasphemy is
but in this
wrong
context,
than claiming to be
so I'm
God.
speaking to this. I don't want to please, because it's going to go haywire with you. Okay, just repeating the point because. No. What doesn't this person know what they're mentioning?
So if he doesn't know anything, then why are you letting him talk?
Well, no, you want
Okay.
to talk to him.
Yeah, so let him talk then, innit?
You want to talk
So
to
you're
him
undermining
because
him.
I think you know in
But
your
you're
heart I'm
undermining
not being
him.
unreasonable. Okay, so
That's
basically
the only
speaking,
reason you're trying to
Jesus
manipulate
must
him.
think he is God. So what is it all about? So he's forgiven the sins. They mischievously are saying he must think he's God.
That's not what it says. It says they thought that he was blaspheming God. And that's,
Not blaspheming
that's
God,
broader.
but
So
claiming
if you
to be God.
If you intentionally sin, that's blaspheming God. Did you know that?
But I don't see the relevance to this point.
So what the original Greek says is that they said this fellow is blaspheming God.
Yes.
And that's not saying claiming to be God.
No, it says this
And
fellow.
so what they're saying is he's being sinful. That he's sinning against God.
No, what they're saying is that he's blaspheming, meaning only God can forgive sins, and therefore he's claiming to be God. Hence why the CEV have translated it as
And so the
he
whole
must
point-
think he is
and-
God.
And so
And
Jesus
so
addresses
Jesus-
this exact point, and he says, so that you know that I do have the authority to forgive sins.
Precisely, and the
Get up,
authority.
pick up your mat and walk.
Yeah, no,
And
he
so
says what is
shows-
easier.
And you
I don't
show-
listen. Just get your mic up. I just want to speak to
This is the proof.
you. See, this is. How can you hang around with? You seems like a reasonable person. How can you hang around with someone like this? I'm doing my nutting. Anyway, so the point being, notice how the continuation goes. So it says that Jesus knew what was in their mind. So, brother, just looks like my head can't cope with much talk. Okay, but you said knew what was it. Why are you thinking such evil things? So then, as you correctly said, is it easier for me to tell this man his sins are forgiven, or to tell him to get up and walk? So basically, he's saying to the guy, what's easier to do? And it's easier to forgive the sins. And to continue the point, but I will show you that the Son of Man has the right to forgive sins, meaning something which has been given to him as a right. It's not his by default. I'll finish up very briefly, and I'll give you a chance. Okay, and then it says, so Jesus said to the man, get up, pick up your mat and go home. The man got up and went home. And then it concludes, when the crowd saw this, they were afraid and praised God for giving authority to man.
Yeah.
So they praise it. So they're not praising. So they haven't praised Jesus. They've praised God, having observed what's happened, and then for giving the authority to man, giving the authority to Jesus to do this. Make sense?
I understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
And so Jesus showed that he'd been given indeed the authority. And you yourself just said only God has the authority to forgive sins. You said that. And so Jesus showed that he had been given that authority. So who does that authority belong to but God?
Brother, let me just handle this, okay, please. So basically speaking, what he's saying over there is that the authority which has been bestowed by God to Jesus is not something which is of Jesus.
But God said, I will not yield my glory to another. And so he would not give what belongs to God to someone who is not God. And it was prophesied through Isaiah that a son would be born to Israel who would be God himself. And so God explained
Which verse? You need to tell me which verse.
Isaiah 9:6.
We've already discussed this.
A son is born to us, a child is given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders.
For he will be called,
Wonderful Counselor,
Do you remember what I
Mighty
said?
God, Eternal Father, and Prince of Peace.
But do you remember what I said earlier? The Hebrew.
Mighty one, but you know, if you look at the Qumran scrolls, if you look at the original ancient Hebrew, you can see it says indeed, Mighty God. You can look at the Septuagint. I know you quoted some other Septuagint. I don't have the Septuagint.
That's fair enough. You can't have everything on topic. I accept that. But what I'm trying to say to you, in the Septuagint, which as you know is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible,
Yes.
it doesn't say mighty God. It says great messenger of counsel.
So whoever translated that Greek
See,
has a poor
look what
job
she's
of
saying.
translating Greek.
But no, it's a Septuagint.
We
That's
read
a-
the Septuagint.
Yeah, but see, look what she just said. She just, at least you are good enough to admit, yeah, you know, I don't know. That's humble. But with her, she knows everything, and she doesn't know everything. Okay, let's continue with the point. In Isaiah 9:6, it's speaking about the present. For us, for unto us a child is born. Not a child, because we know Jesus wasn't there at the time. Jesus wasn't born at that time in Isaiah 9:6. So a child is born. For unto a child is given. So the child is born at that time. A child.
I'll interrupt you right now. So what God says in Isaiah, he also says, who are you that you fear men, human beings who are but dust, that you forget I am your maker, who stretches out the heavens and lays the earth's foundation. So is the earth's foundation already laid? But it's present tense, isn't it? So he says, who lays the earth's foundation. And so this is how God speaks. And it's consistent. God doesn't change. And he's
What's the
consistent
relevance
with
to the
his word.
point?
And so you say, to us the son is born.
Yes.
And at the same time, you know, so you're saying, oh, this says something about it not being prophecy. But that's not true. Because God speaks about laying the earth's foundation in present tense when he did it when the earth was first formed.
So that, why does that make any sense? Because we know Isaiah came around about 770 years after Jesus. Before, sorry, but yeah, sorry, my mistake. He came 770 years before. So naturally, Christ, it couldn't be in reference to Jesus, could it?
Your prophet
So,
came 600
no.
years after Jesus.
What the heck's
So
that got
how
to
can
do?
you say one is right and
Honestly, I don't know how you put up
wrong?
with it. I really
If that
don't.
was true,
So this
because
going back to the point. So a child is born in the present context.
And it was
Yeah, and then it says further, for he.
David saying, my hands and my feet are pierced. I can count every bone in my
Where
body.
does it say that?
Psalms 22. In Psalms 22,
Yeah.
David sings, my hands and my feet are pierced.
But
But
in-
David died an old man full of years.
But
And
in-
he was singing prophetically about Jesus Christ. And he's saying in the present tense, saying, my hands and my feet are pierced. And it wasn't until 2,000 years later that it happened.
But in Isaiah 53:11, it says none of his bones will be pierced.
No, it says that none of his bones will be broken.
Yeah, or pierced, broke, same
But
thing.
no, he says, my hands and my feet are pierced. I can count every bone in my body. They
But-
cast lots for my garments and divided my clothes. And none of Jesus' bones were broken.
Precisely. So how is he then dying in the crucifixion then? If none of his bones are broken, if nothing,
When you
if
are
how does
crucified, when you're crucified, you asphyxiate. You stop being able to breathe because you have to lift yourself up each time to take a breath. You've not been crucified, you've not seen it,
But
so
are
you
you-
don't know.
are
But you
you-
don't need your bones to be broken to die for crucifixion.
Are you aware, according to Flavius Josephus? Have you heard of Flavius Josephus?
Yes.
According to him, he says that crucifixion was just a means of punishing someone for doing a particular act. Often, after he would go on his expeditions and return to Jerusalem, people who were his friends would be hanging on the cross for several days. It was just because by itself, F.F. Bruce and Bruce Metzger and also Raymond Brown say that crucifixion it pierces or doesn't destroy any vital organ. The asphyxiation was just a method of torture. It was
So it
not.
kills you.
I'm just explaining to you. Crucifixion did not entail death. It simply entailed
Certainly did.
because according to, have you heard of these scholars that I made mention, by the way?
Josephus, I know Josephus.
Yeah,
Flavius Josephus.
yeah, he was a later. He was not a scholar. He was a later historian.
He was a historian.
Who lived about 30 years after Christ. So he himself makes reference that, because what we argue is that Christ wasn't crucified, but Christians will say no, but there was a crucifixion that happened. There was evidence, there were witnesses, but it says in the New Testament that all the disciples fled and left.
There were Roman records of the crucifixion.
Not according Roman records were the Flavius Josephus of those people who were being crucified at his time, but there's no Roman records of Jesus being killed.
The disciple
No, they
John,
talk about
his
it.
mother was standing at the foot of the cross. You read this in the Gospel of John.
Okay, notice what she said.
According to you.
I catch her. You know what she just said, her last statement? She just said that Mary Magdalene and Mary were standing at the foot of the cross when Jesus was being crucified. If you read Mark's account of the same incident, it says they were far away and it was dark. What happens?
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it
No, it
does.
doesn't.
Oh
Get it
my
back
God.
up there.
Okay,
Let's
I'll
have
bring
a
that. Just
look.
2 seconds.
Let me
Let's
hold
have a
on.
look.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind.
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. So according to you, you're...
No, I don't know.
according
No,
to
I
you,
don't
that's
listen.
what
I don't want to speak because I know you've got motor mouth.
doesn't wanna talk
I just
to
want to
me.
speak because this person's reasonable.
No, you know
Okay,
you
do you know? Okay, do you know more than this person?
Well, let's see. Let's find
Okay,
out.
no. Do you? Yes or no?
Let's find out.
I don't want to speak because you're a motor mouth, so I can't speak. I don't want to speak to a motor mouth. No, I don't want to speak to him.
No, we're not in competition with one another.
That's-
We're
but you can
friends.
simply say-
We work
Okay,
together
can I
as a
ask you,
team. We're
is she
friends. We're
senior
not
to
in
you?
competition with one
Is she
another.
senior
It's
to you
not
in
about
terms
who
of
knows more.
discussion?
No.
Okay, thank you. So what is it that I've said which is incorrect? I've told you in Mark's account, it says he was far away. This is
Scripture.
You think your
Okay.
God was a deceiver? Your God apparently had somebody
See, look,
else
what's this
on
got to
the
do with the
cross-
topic? She's talking about nonsense things,
on the
just
cross,
motoring her
someone
mouth
else
away.
Wasn't Jesus. So according to you lot, your God is a liar. Because
Mark's
somebody else-
account shows disciples were far away from Jesus at the cross. Mark chapter 15. Mark chapter 15. It says the disciples were far. It says Mary Magdalene was far away. Mark chapter 15. Mark chapter 15, verses 40 to 41.
Let me say.
Was Mary Magdalene far or near
Let's
at
have a
the
look.
cross, a study of case?
Including specifically were looking from a distance.
Exactly.
That's not the Bible. That's a case study. That's not the Bible.
No, but it's quoting then, it's quoting. You can't even understand
watching
plain
from a
English.
distance at the
Right.
cross.
Earlier, thank you, because I prefer to speak honestly. I made a quote, you asked me to bring the quote up. I brought you the quote up from Mark's Gospel. Here you have it. According to the Synoptic Gospels, please can you just say a little bit about, please? I prefer, like, I've asked you that politely.
That's not the gospel.
According-
That's not the gospel.
According to the Synoptic Gospels, the women who witnessed Jesus' crucifixion, including specifically Mary Magdalene, were looking or watching from a distance. And here's the evidence.
Matthew 27:55.
Mark 15, which I mentioned that to you as well. Mark chapter 15, verse 40 to 41. And it also says, see, I know my story, just like you can't remember every single verse, but I told you it's in Mark's
I'll
account.
respond to you. So Jesus' last words were said to be, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani.
Ella mala sabachthani, yes.
And also, it is finished. So which was it? Oh, there's a contradiction.
No, let me, okay, do you want me to explain that to you?
No, I'll explain it. That he said both.
Said, how can he say both when he's dying
So,
once?
so if I'm far away, can I come near to you?
Yeah.
Is that possible? So if I'm watching something happen from over here,
From a distance, from a far distance.
No one said far
It
distance.
is- it says-
can I cross
It's-
that far
Don't
distance?
So, again, she's interrupted again. She's got no respect. Actually, this is a disrespect to you that she's not letting you finish. And she's disrespecting you. No, but
I'm not disrespecting.
yeah, but what I'm saying, you said that you're co-equal in knowledge, so you're capable of answering me, but she's showing you disrespect. That's what it basically is.
We
And
all
plus,
shouldn't speak at the same time,
but
you
notice
don't
the way
want to
you
speak
speak and the way she's like a babbler, but you're coherent. At least you're coherent. So going back to the final point, Mark chapter 15, verses 44 to 1, they say it was dark and they were watching from a
to her. If you
distance.
believe in Jesus, you will be
I
saved.
enjoy speaking to you. Thank you for your time.
God bless you.
Okay, so it's clear. What did we see there? Obviously, I haven't got every single verse cited. I said in Mark's Gospel, Jesus is far away. I beg your pardon. Mary and John and Mary they're far away, and it's dark, and they're watching from a far distance. But John's Gospel says they were at the foot of the cross. Why? Because John is pushing forward the theology of Jesus being crucified, because those later Christians or earlier Christians didn't believe Jesus was crucified. And John has it in there that he changes Mark's account that he was right at the foot of the cross, to show, in Mark's account actually, he was far away, meaning they couldn't even see where he was. It was from a distance and it was dark. But in John's account, he changes Mark's account to have John right, to have those disciples right at the foot of Jesus, to try to show that he was crucified. So these are some of the points which these people are all over the place. May Allah guide them. Assalamu alaikum.
In the right attribute of a prophet.
So yeah.